Welcome back to the Patient First Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bryan Laskin, and today we are going to be talking about the next phase in dentistry, what I call Dentistry 3.0. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Tooth Apps Connect. You can find it out at toothapps.com, the dental health information exchange, connecting dentistry to patients, connecting dentistry to itself, and connecting dentistry to medicine. Find out about the Dental Health Information Exchange at toothapps, TOOTHAPPS.com. Now, today, I've been lecturing around the country about Dentistry 2.0. And actually, my lecture is called Dentistry 2.0, How to Leverage Technology to Grow Your Practice. So I think of Dentistry 2.0 as a massive phase of dentistry that I'll talk about in a little bit, but what has brought dentistry forward in a massive way. And it's been up to now, it's been what my career has been focused on, delivering Dentistry 2.0. And so if you've heard this lecture, I think, you can probably know what it's about, but I'll get into it in a little bit. But it's really things like paperless forms. You may have heard me talk about that. If you're on the podcast, you probably have. HIPAA. I was on the Minnesota Department of Health's Privacy and Security Work Group. One of the first applications we developed at Opera DDS was a secure messaging platform that was HIPAA compliant. Secure messaging, intra-office messaging was the very first thing we created. Reviews, recall, right? So lots of applications that we'll talk about. Paperless forms, HIPAA, messaging, reviews, recall. I call that Dentistry 2.0. And you might obviously have heard me lecture about these things. If you're on this podcast, you probably have. But I was reading the book Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. Great book on longevity. I would recommend it. Maybe I'll do a book supply to dentistry about that one. Maybe I kind of am today, because he talks a lot about what he calls Medicine 3.0. And Medicine 3.0 is really more about wellness, basically preventing what he calls the four horsemen, which is dementia, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, prior to them actually showing up. Right now, in dentistry, it's a little bit different because obviously prevention's always been the main focus, frankly, of dentistry, and should continue to be. However, I came to the realization that we're actually going through a fundamental shift right now. Right now, we're not there yet, but I can see what it is. And that's what I want to talk about. That's pretty much my entire career. The secret to my success in dentistry, whatever disproportional large success I've had in dentistry, really comes from being able to anticipate what's coming next. I mean, if you have paid attention to my career at all, and the only reason why I mention that is because I've been yammering into a microphone for about 3 years or four, actually more than probably more like 5 years now. I got to go back and see how many episodes we've done, but it's a lot. I've been speaking into a microphone a lot. Previously with my good friend David Pryor on the operatory, and then about 2 years ago we came up with the Patient First podcast, and it's really taken off. But I've been talking about dentistry for quite a while, and I think the reason why people are mostly interested in what we're doing is because of obviously technology and putting patients first, but because we can see kind of what's coming next. And over the years, I've gotten better at that, because it's been my job, frankly, for about the last decade, to anticipate what's coming next. And I see a major shift right now. Probably the second major shift that I've seen. The first one I saw was in dental school when I saw the first CAD CAM machine, and I got heavily involved with that for about the next 15 years. But I've been thinking about this based on Outlive, the great book by Dr. Peter Attia, that I'm about a third of the way through. So not quite ready to talk about how great a book it is, because maybe it goes down, but I've heard great things. Anyway, I digress. What is Dentistry 3.0 and what does that mean? Now, I'll go back to Dentistry 1.0, where I think dentistry really became what modern dentistry is. So I'm not talking about, Billie Holiday with, giving you a bottle of bourbon and then you do whatever you need to do to yank a tooth out. That's not Dentistry 1.0. I think Dentistry 1.0, the way that I would define it, and I haven't heard it defined otherwise. So I'd love to hear, if you have different perspectives on the phases of modern dentistry, I would love to hear it, because this is a relatively new concept that I fleshed out for this podcast, and that we're creating some lecture points about because I think it's kind of a helpful context. So dentistry 1.0, what is it? It's high speed handpieces. Oh my gosh, can you imagine doing dentistry without high speed handpieces today? Composites, really bad ones, tooth colored filling materials, let's call it, because let's face it, one of the big advances in modern dentistry since I got out of dental school a little over 20 years ago is the improvements in composites. They were relatively predictable back when I got out of dental school, but they required a lot of technique. It was very technique sensitive, but but an aspect of dentistry 1.0 was at least being able to put a tooth colored filling in the front tooth, even regardless of how long it lasted or didn't last. Paper charts, I mean, that was a big deal when we actually had data and notes that were structured for a patient, even if it was just writing down what we did, which let's face it, it wasn't that long ago when a chart note said something like 1 3 1990 20 DO. I mean, I've seen those paper charts that's what they said was just a procedure with nothing else, right? So, but that was a big step forward. We're actually writing down what we did for a patient. Film X-rays, having X-rays obviously is a big deal, and at the time, every single one of these was huge, right? I mean, even a paper chart, a schedule when you knew when patients are coming in. I mean, sounds archaic today, and it is, but they're just but they were huge at the time. Think I can't even imagine the revolution that the high speed handpiece, being a dentist and then getting your first high speed handpiece must have been. It's no different than getting your for the first CT scan. It just blows your mind. I would think back in the day whenever high speed handpieces came out, right? But now let's face every single one of these. We think about them like a tooth colored filling material. Yeah, it's table stakes. So there's better alternatives today to every technology in 1.0. That's one of my points. When we go from dentistry 1.0 to dentistry 2.0, there are better alternatives in every way to every single one of these technologies. Number one, hand pieces. We have electric hand pieces with water spray and lights and also, I mean, hand pieces. The first high speed hand pieces really were nothing like our existing high speed hand pieces, right? They're much better. Paper charts are now digital charts. I don't know who's doing paper charts in the year 2023. I'm sure you're out there. Probably not listening to a podcast. If you are, please switch over. But digital charts are better in every single way, right? Same thing with digital X-rays. I talk about it before. I mean, film X-rays should. I mean, if you're still using film X-rays, unless there's some weird edge case that you don't have power in the office where you are and you need to use a dip tank for your x-rays. I mean, I just can't imagine a reason why film x-rays would be deemed acceptable in the year 2023. Digital x-rays are better in every way and less expensive, right? CAD cam dentistry, so we're getting into technologies that people today I think view as cutting edge, as super new. No, CAD CAM dentistry has been around for about 45 years, right? This is dentistry 2.0, right? And obviously the timeline between dentistry, dentistry 0.0 and 1.0 was thousands of years. Between 1.0 and 2.0 was maybe 100 years, right? And that's the way it works because as we iterate, as we innovate, there's an exponential curve of development. And that's what's going on in dentistry, such that CAD CAM dentistry obviously came quite a bit behind digital charts. But if you think about it, not that much. Not that much. Same thing with CT imaging. I'm putting CT imaging, CAD CAM dentistry in dentistry 2.0. Why? Why? Because these are all fundamentally the same types of technology: electric handpieces, digital charts, digital x rays, CAD CAM, CT imaging. These are all around something in your practice that is basically electrified, that has a server that's doing a function that can do massively cool things. And the beginning, dentistry 2.0 to dentistry 2.9, obviously there's a lot of progress there, right? Where CT imaging is a much deeper level of technology than the first digital bite wing, right? But but it's still fundamentally in the same phase of dentistry, right? That's kind of the significance here. 1.0 is all kind of like more analog film. 2.0 is digital charts, electric handpieces, CAD CAM, CT imaging. So what is dentistry 3.0? What's the major shift that I think is going on right now that's going to last for years? It's robotics, it's artificial intelligence, it's cloud, it's interoperability. Interoperability, the management of data is what's going on now is not that things are digitized. It's those that we're actually functionally changing how we act with those digital components such that we can leverage technologies outside our practice to provide higher quality care. Things like artificial intelligence, using massive volumes of data so that we can improve our care. The cloud, meaning that our information is accessible everywhere securely, and that we can bring in all of the information from different elements, right? The practice management system is becoming part of a larger system called the electronic dental record, right? The electronic dental record is not just the patient's name and the chart. It's their radiographs, it's their medical history from the physician. It's their labs that they got at the when they went and they had their the bariatrics done prior to having an oral surgery, right? We know we have that information available for the oral surgeon, for the dentist. We can have this collaboration of care from multiple specialties, multiple angles, right? So we have a dental health information exchange and connected dentistry such that we can provide higher quality care, right? I talked about AI as being part of dentistry 3.0. I think that AI is in its infancy. This is this is like dial up internet. If any of you, I used to have to dial into the internet like I did back in the day. That's where we are with AI. And at Tooth Apps, we're actually leveraging artificial intelligence to do what I think is meaningful, to help practices with the day-to-day operations that, you know, take too long, obviously, but fundamentally, what we want to leverage AI to do is things that dentists can't do. Think about it this way: dentistry 2.0, we were able to log things in our chart, maybe send secure emails back and forth, and we could go online. Actually, the internet, I would put in dentistry 2.0 because you could go online and search. Oh, I can't remember what that disease was called, right? Well, you don't have to pull out a book anymore. You can go to the internet. But in dentistry 3.0, in its infancy, what we're working on at Tooth Apps is you can have access to every research study in recorded history that's online in dentistry and in medicine, and then ask questions to increase the connections between dentistry and medicine, or come to conclusions that a human can't, because no human can read every dental study in recorded history, right? But that's what AI is meant to do: take in large data volume of data and then come to conclusions based on that data, and then we as humans can look at it with a critical eye and research those connections. And so that's what dentistry 3.0 is all about: leveraging dentistry 2.0 to make connected connections that we couldn't previously. By we, I mean artificial intelligence. I mean interoperability. Interoperability is a massive part of that. I've talked about it on this podcast, and I will continue for a while because it's my current passion. Because I do believe that interoperability is the biggest opportunity that we have in dentistry that people aren't talking about. It's talked about all over in medicine because they see the power. We can't have the AI be as effective as it can be without interoperability, right? And so we need to create this connected dentistry where there's a health information exchange of information, so that we can layer on other dentistry 3.0 technologies like robotics, like artificial intelligence, and secure open sharing of data through cloud-based systems to improve our patient care. So that is my definition of dentistry 3.0, and it's evolving. This is a new concept because I believe it is a new phase that we're entering in dentistry. We're not quite there. We're right on the cusp of it. I think I've the course of my career to this point, I've been heavily focused on dentistry 2.0. I've worked with in dental charts, digital X-rays, CAD CAM, CT imaging. I was CAD CAM trainer for over a dozen years. I've trained many people on CT imaging, on paperless forms, on but reviews. All of those sort of web technologies that that defined dentistry 2.0. But I feel like we're entering a new phase right now, and it's exciting because this is the first new phase since I've got out of dental school. Like I said, dentistry 2.0. When I saw that first CAD CAM system, no matter how it was pretty archaic, it wasn't 3D back when I was in dental school. I looked at it, I went, "Wow, that's the next phase of dentistry," and I was right. That was because when in dental school, I learned dentistry 1.0, and I was looking at something from dentistry 2.0. And dentistry 2.0 has really been defining my career. 2.0, 2.1, 2.9, and now I believe I'm excited to say that I can participate in dentistry 3.0. My major focus, obviously, is interoperability, is getting all the data together, connected dentistry, so that we can have a dental health information exchange that's meaningful, such that we can leverage new technologies like artificial intelligence and robotics to bring dentistry to its next phase, 3.0. So I'd love to hear what you think are other 3.0 technologies, whether it's remote diagnostics or teledentistry, or what you think are the next phase of dentistry, or if you don't think we're entering a new phase of dentistry, if you think that dentistry is plateaued and we're staying here, and that paperless forms, taking a piece of paper and putting it in the cloud is kind of where things are going to stay for a while. So comment, let me know what you think, and like and please subscribe. Our subscribers have taken off like crazy recently, and very happy to see that. So appreciate all of your time and attention as we try to put the patient first together. To that end, look forward to seeing you next week right here on the Patient First Podcast.